like, hey, just kind of make sure you save your money. Like, he's not going to.
Yeah.
You know, like, I never did.
Something in his head a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so we're
That's some mid to late 20s shit when you actually start saving your money.
Should have listened to him.
I think I think that should be a part of training like new people, especially new to
money management.
The reality.
Oh my god, dude.
Walk out with $300, go to the bar next door, you get home with 100 after buying shots for the whole bar.
I'll make it up
if
tomorrow.
If you're lucky,
yeah.
If you're lucky, 100.
Yeah, right.
Make $400
I
bucks in
should have
cash.
4 houses right now.
Wake up with an empty wallet and just a heart full of shame.
Dude, we've all done it.
Heart full of shame.
Look at your bank account like, oh, fuck. You know, like pulling up your app like, I don't want to.
Like shit, and I'm broke. God damn it.
Yeah. Alone.
Yeah.
It comes so easy though.
Yeah,
you know, I just remember my first time working down at the oceanfront when we were making cash, and it was like probably the most money that I've ever made. You know, in a period of time.
I'm rich.
I'm on a boat.
But you want to like go out and experience. You know, you're meeting new bartenders, you're meeting new people from all over the place. You want to go and share the love that they shared to you.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then you go out, you make your $400, and you're like, I mean. You know, it's like the 15th of the month, man. I ain't got to pay bills for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I got like 7 shifts ahead of that time. I'm making on an average $300.
Yeah.
And then for like the next week, it rains.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Chris, we're going to go ahead and cut you early tonight.
Yeah. Wow. Then I got this like animosity.
The whole
with,
plan's
like,
been ruined. Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
I think. Damn it. This is another thing that I kind of wanted to bring up too. As a supervisor, with somebody that's dealing with a schedule, I know this is a very like difficult thing because essentially you're setting the tone for everybody that works underneath you's like life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in charge of their life, man. It's insane. Yeah.
Seniority versus like a seniority type of schedule versus a performance-based schedule. I'm like performance-based 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, all day.
But it doesn't always come like that. And that can make a really like stressful situation for bartenders or servers, or I'm speaking from a bartender side, that have been told that they're not doing anything wrong. So like if I'm a bartender, right, and let's say that I've gotten like 4 opening shifts this week, and I'm like, hey man, you know, okay, I'm not really going to say anything because you know you don't want to like speak to the supervisor because it's like this like really weird space. We have a really difficult time about like talking about shifts and money, or we don't know how to appropriately bring it up to where we're not being assholes,
Right.
Because it's stressful, right? So you're like in my head, I'm like you're fucking with my money, but on an outward perspective of having to talk to a supervisor, it's like, hey, like, am I doing okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're doing great. And you're like, okay.
But it doesn't seem like
Because it doesn't reflect in my schedule.
Well, you're making me feel like a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You make me feel like I'm not good enough.
And I'm just cutting fruit for the night shift all day.
Yeah,
I'm prepping.
Made that $50, $60.
Yeah, this isn't, you know. I don't know. That's just, I feel like that's a constant situation that I've seen that I don't think I've brought up yet about talking about, because that can be like a huge stressor upon people.
Well, I think so. What Chris was saying earlier about the check-ins, like that's a huge thing that I think would cover that situation. But I think with your situation, what you're talking about, that's just bad management. That, you know what I mean? They're like they don't want to. They're scared of that confrontation, so they just kind of create a situation where maybe they're trying to get you out of there, or they're not really having a real conversation with you. You know what I mean?
And then that's how they're showing you that they're trying to push you out or whatever.
Right, and it's
versus if you say like, listen, Chris, just so you know, like so and so, they had to take their day shift off this week. If you don't mind, I'm going to throw you on 2 morning shifts.
Right.
And if there's a little bit of communication there, then you say, okay, well, it sucks to have to work 2 morning shifts when I usually work the night shift, but at least now I kind of understand.
Right.
And I'll be back to my normal night shifts next week or whatever.
Right.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, that was perfect. Yeah. No, that's it.
You know, we were another situation came up between tips and tip pulling.
Yeah.
So when we worked at the Yard House together, it was via hourly.
Yeah. Like the California people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then the way that we all work is, you know, by tip pulling.
Yeah.
Or at least most of us, the way that I was brought up through it was tip pulling.
So take all the money over the course of the night, divide that by the number of hours worked.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, I come in at 12. At 12, that money's cut. Next bartender comes in. When the next bartender comes in after that, that money's cut. And it kind of goes along the day, which leaves in like a really weird situation because like in the situation where you're like where you're pulling tips per each bartender that's coming in, then the person that's there during the slowest part of the day is getting shit on.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is most likely the opener.
Yep.
That's come in, an hour and a half to 30 minutes to open up the place. And then the end of the night, those guys, they're really kind of raking in the cash because it's kind of like the way that it all kind of goes. Or the vice versa, where it's, you've got the closing bartenders that are like, well, I mean, the opener didn't have anybody. They didn't, but they didn't really do anything to contribute to the tip pool. But in the other sense, it's like, well, I mean, but they did get the bar set up and open for you, though.
Right, and you didn't have to be here.
Right.
You didn't have to be here to do that. So yeah,
You enjoyed your day.
We can flip it if you want to.
Right.
You don't.
Well, I think every restaurant or bar has that day shift, night shift. Even if it's not like the tipping, it can be night shift. They made all the money last night, and we come in the morning and it's a complete wreck in here. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and that's one of the things I talk about a lot with companies. I go in, and I think the only thing to kind of do is have an open conversation about it, where people feel like they can have that communication, open communication.
Yeah.
But then also understanding, working that day shift, and knowing that if I work both over the course of a month, then it should all even out at the end.
Yeah.
I like having the doing the call it like a charity shift. Like everyone's got the charity shift, man. You just rotate the charity shift, and then as long as everybody knows,
right?
Then like that's it.
Yeah.
Right. And then everything, scheduling is a fucking bitch.
So the tip out thing, I think that battle, like we were saying, between the night and the day, is literally like the battle of night and day. Will be endless and timeless and will go on forever until people are gone. You know what I mean? Basically, always like, fuck that, I work harder, or I fucking had to clean all this shit up like you just said, like in the morning. But it will never end. And then the thing is, like you said, there's the dark side on both sides of that thing, where you just grab the tips at the time, or the tip pooling, where sometimes we've seen people that like, get off the clock, man. We cut you like 3 hours ago. What are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and they're just like gaining that hourly. So there's always going to be some negative aspect of it.
And then you have tabs that are transferred to the night shift.
Oh, God.
I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah.
People like, well, I worked an extra 4 hours because I was cleaning until 3 a.m. And you're like, were you, though?
If anybody's got a way to, like a special way that they've figured tip pulling out, feel free to write into us. Because I would like to discuss
keep this conversation going. Yeah.
We had a message on Facebook.
Yeah. So this is a message on Facebook. It was a question about IDing people. This is from Grace Coughlin. I'm pretty sure I said that right. Grace. So thank you, Grace, for the question. But her question is basically IDing older people and dealing with the aftermath where they get mad at you. Like, what's your thoughts on it?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I've been on both sides of this side. So it's either you do ID somebody that looks over the age of 35, or you don't ID somebody that looks over the age of 35. And if you do ID somebody that looks over the age of 35, and they throw an attitude at you,
Right.
Like, oh, I got this, that, and other.
Right.
I mean, legally,
I feel like it's a compliment.
it should be.
It should be.
And honestly, that's how I handle it. Like,
Yeah,
if a
exactly.
woman's like, "Are you serious? You're gonna ID me?" I'm like, "Well, girl, don't look so good."
Yeah.
And it honestly, it works. You know what I mean? Like, they'll usually be, "Okay, here it is." Guys, not so much. That is a little different. Yeah, that's interesting. How would you handle a guy that's irate?
Well, so
after
to
ID?
the initial question, I've seen this before where it's the question itself where a bartender goes like, "Yeah, I need to see your ID." You know what I mean? It's not. There's no like kind way of they're saying it. It's like, "I'm the police and I need to see your." You know what I mean? They're so like assertive about it, where it's like you kind of throw people back. And I've seen people do that before, and I've had to stop and be like, "Hey man, just be a little bit, just chill, man. Just say, hey man, I know you're cool. I I just need to see your ID just before I give you a drink. It's no big deal. You know, if you treat it that way, then that person will receive it that way. But if you get all like hard line on them, which I've seen bartenders do, they kind of throw it right back. You know, we're very like, as human beings, we're very sensitive. We'll volley back that negativity as soon as it hits us.
That was one of the things that we had to really kind of focus on with our steps of service at the Yard House was like IDing everybody.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone. It was just like a thing, you know? And I remember plenty of situations where you'd have somebody walking up to the bar. And you're like, I already know that you're 40. Or I might have served you like
60.
yesterday. Or 60 or whatever. And I served you last week.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you just kind of deal with it, you know? And you're like, hey, do you mind getting your ID out for me?
Right.
I just got to check.
Well, and I think one of the good answers to that is eliminating the gray area where you don't have to try and guess how old somebody is. You just, like you said, ID everybody, and now you're not going to be at fault, even if the person is pissed off.
Ooh, and then I was just going to follow up with this with so Grace, to help you out as well.
What up, Grace?
Never don't ID the one woman, but ID the two girls with her.
If you ID, you're old as fuck. But
you know what I'm saying? Oh my god!
If you start the IDing process,
you got to put in the grave right now.
You got to follow through.
This should happen. Like no lie to you. This should happen to me where there were two separate groups of people that came in this past week. And it was kind of during the day too, so I wasn't really like too stressed about it. But I started. It's like, you definitely don't. You could be questionable. You're questionable. So I'm like, hey, can I see your IDs? Go serve them the drinks. As these two other ladies kind of come up and sit beside them, you know, and like in my back of my head, I'm like, I know you're old enough. But then I thought about it again. I'm like, this is really going to kind of start like a really kind of. This is going to start something.
You're going to get insulted if I don't.
So I just turned to them. I'm like, I know y'all got your IDs too, right? And they're like, oh, we do. Here you go. You know, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And they feel better about it.
Sorry.
It's all good.
I got a question for you guys.
IDing soundbar.
I'm finishing up. So I'm finishing up this book on leadership, and it's about the hospitality industry, but taking a lot of research and studying other industries as well. What do you guys think makes a great bartender? Leadership aside, just.
So the other day I have a bunch of bartenders that have never bartended before, just like the servers. So they're the idea for most people that have never bartended before is like, I need to learn all these recipes.
Yeah.
And there's 50 million recipes out there. That's not what you need to learn. You need to learn how to hustle and work together, and that's it. You know, always be thinking about your next move. I think it's in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The bartender is a cartoon octopus. You know what I mean? Because the idea is that
8 arms.
You got 8 arms, and you're moving around. You're constantly using both hands. So I think to become a great bartender, you have to understand that you constant flow and efficiency. Yeah, not recipes. We'll get that. You get that later on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God, you're so right. I feel like everyone I've ever trained, they're just like, well, what do you put in the shot? I'm like, that is not something you need to worry about. Have a good attitude, show up on time, willingness to learn, and teamwork. I think that's what really makes a good bartender. I don't care if you've bartending for 10 years or a month. You know what I mean? You just moved into town or whatever. If you show the hunger, it's used that already, but the hunger to actually want to do well, and you care about the company that you work for. You know what I mean? You were talking about, there's a piece of paper on the floor. When I see bartender fucking pick that shit up, I'm like, love this person.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because if everyone in the whole restaurant did one little thing extra, if you've got 90 people on the floor, that's 90 things that are getting done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think a willingness to, be a team player and help out and just want to learn as much as possible and absorb makes a good bartender. That's me.
Yeah, the wanting to learn thing is huge.
Yeah.
There was a guy Vartan in when I went to Springfield. You know, big guy, muscle bound dude, like cool as ice. But he'd worked on the river and he's worked at every place. He's super good at what he does. 100% Vartan, you're great. But he was working the well one day, and you know how we have those martinis. So he does the thing where he smacks the top of the tin on, and he's trying to, after he shakes it, he's trying to separate it. But the thing is you've created a vacuum, and all you're doing, as big as he is, he's just fighting himself. And the more he pulls on it, the more he can't open it. So he starts banging it on the side of the bar, like violently, and I'm like, Vartan, calm down, give it to me.
Pinch it.
And I was like, just pinch it like a little treat like a little baby. And he was like, what? And I was like, and it comes undone. He's like, shut the fuck up. But so, a day later, another person can't open the tin. I'm walking by, and it's like that moment of like, fucking you know what I mean? He's like, hey, look, check it out. Just grab it, just pinch it like a little baby. And he's telling this person, and I'm like,
there's so many lessons
fucking
there
awesome.
too.
He's telling this person now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But they, you know, he opened up and he just said, cool, man, I'm about it. And Barton was awesome.
Yeah, I do see